Hi there, everybody, and thank you very much for tuning in to another less than 15-minute presentation with me, your host, Gary Armstrong, the G Adventures GPS for Alberta. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk in a little bit more detail about our Explore Machu Picchu National Geographic journey to Peru. I had the really good fortune of being on this trip in May of this year, and I'm excited to run through all the things that you'll see and do while in Peru with G Adventures. So as this is a National Geographic exclusive, we do have some portions of this trip that are exclusive to our Nat Geo, so the Cusco Planetarium visit, as well as the Andean experience in Urubamba, where you'll visit the Parc de la Papa, the potato park. This is, instead of visiting our Kakakoyo Women's Weaving Co-op, it's just a really great opportunity for us to have the ability, with our partnership with National Geographic, to ensure that we're spreading the, basically the love around the region. The Kakakoyo has been extremely popular. We have thousands of visitors who visit that particular site over the year, and so this is a great way for us to differentiate our National Geographic content, as well as ensure that other remote communities in the region are seeing the benefits of travel and tourism to that region. So as part of this itinerary, you are in and out of Lima. You have a 2-day tour of the Sacred Valley, taking in some of the amazing Inca sites in the region, and then you also have a traditional style Pachamanca dinner to learn more about traditional Peruvian cuisine, and then you're taking the train from Ollantaytambo to Aguas Calientes to then go and see Machu Picchu, rather than doing any kind of multi-day hiking in the region. And then all your transportation is included, as well as your arrival transfers once you get to Lima as well. So this is the reason why the vast majority of people travel to Peru, but as you'll learn throughout this presentation, there is so much more to Peru than just visiting the one Incan site, the most famous of Machu Picchu. You'll see Ollantaytambo, Morai, and Pisac. And on our longer itineraries in the region, also visit, Lake Titicaca, the Amazon rainforest, and possibly Culca Canyon as well. There is tons of stuff to do while you're in Peru. This is definitely a highlight, but it is only one of a large number of reasons to visit this part of the world. So when you arrive, you get your arrival transfer, you'll fly into Lima and transfer straight to your hotel. The arrival meeting will be at 6 p.m., between 6 and 8 p.m. of the arrival day. And I definitely recommending to your travelers to spend some extra time in Lima, either pre or post this flight. There is tons to do in Lima. It is a city of almost 9 million people. If you're a surfer, then definitely spend a few days, probably before and after your trip, getting into the water there. It is a little cool, probably a little bit too cool for people who are looking to just swim. But there is some great waves off the coast. There's also the chance to go visit the catacombs in the city centre, which is about a 20 or 30-minute drive out from the Miraflores district, where you'll be staying with our hotels in the region. There is tons to do in Miraflores itself. That picture in the centre there is the group of us strolling down the Malecon to the park there, and the big joke is people need to recreate that statue. And then after taking the picture, I found that there were a couple in the background who were doing just that. It is a beautiful walk along the beach. And then also the picture on the right there, there's it was described to me as the giant mud pyramid in Miraflores, but what it is a pre-Incan site, which was a really interesting and informative journey around this amazing structure right in the center of Miraflores. So there is tons to do in Lima. As part of this itinerary, you have your arrival day, and then we are flying you straight to Cusco. And then from Cusco, you are heading straight into the Sacred Valley. And I should mention that the vast majority of these pictures were taken by myself in May. It is a spectacularly beautiful place to visit. And so you drive from Cusco after meeting your National Geographic local guide, who's with you with your CEO as you go through, and visit your first Incan site over the trip, which is Morai. And for me personally, Morai was a real highlight. It's an ancient Incan and pre-Incan laboratory, basically, for growing agricultural produce. So what they did, the difference in temperature at the bottom of the bowl to the top can be as much as 15 degrees. So what they were doing was taking, crops that would grow at a lower altitude and a warmer temperature, and slowly over generations of those plants, making them hardier and hardier as they progressed them up to the different terrace levels. And then they were doing the same in reverse as well. They were taking species of potato that grow at higher elevations and in harsher temperatures and environments, and then bringing them down so that they were able to grow in more lower altitudes and warmer climes. And for me, as a student of history, it was a really fascinating visit. It is the bedrock on which the Incan Empire was built, the ability to provide more food than you need to your population, allows the diversification of labor, and so people can become stonemasons and they can become politicians and whatever else you need in a society, because not as many people are having to grow the large amounts of food that you need to feed a population. And so this was key to the strength of the Incan Empire. This is me at Morai. It was excellent. We walked down. You can't go all the way into the middle of the bowl there, but there's a path that goes around the side. There are actually 3 different bowls there. You could spend all day at Morai. This is a very quick trip. There is a lot to see. But on the left there, you can see that was my first chance to see the floating steps, the famous architectural piece of the Incan Empire there, where they weren't using up extra arable land by putting staircases in. And on the right-hand side, because this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, they're not able to reconstruct the walls. They're only able to preserve what is still there, and so that's why you have the piles of stone. Our Incan, our National Geographic CEO was fantastic for this part of the tour. A really knowledgeable individual and a really great part of our trip. But we had to go very quickly on to Las Salinas because we really want to pack in as much as we can because there is so much to see in the Sacred Valley. These are the pre-Incan salt flats that are still used today. It's set in just a really beautiful landscape. I took a lot of pictures. There's a couple of stops as you're driving from Morai to Las Salinas just so you can enjoy the landscape. So this is where the local people still to this day will harvest salt from the warm salt spring that's coming out of the side of the mountain. So they fill up little terraces, wait for the water to evaporate, and then harvest the salt that's left behind. And you can purchase that salt as well for both cooking as well as for bathing salts, and so just don't mix the two up when you get home. A really fascinating visit, a really beautiful and unique little community nestled in the Sacred Valley. So after a couple of really interesting trips, it's time to get some lunch. You were starting to get a little bit hungry, and so we drove to the Para restaurant. I've had the really good fortune to eat at Para 3 times now. The food is amazing, and of course you're helping to support the local community, that the food is all grown locally, and all of the revenue that's generated by this restaurant goes back into the local community. They recently installed a computer lab for the local school based on off of the proceeds of this restaurant. So not only a fantastic meal, but also the knowledge that the dollars that you put towards this trip are going to support the people in that region. So after a busy morning and a delicious lunch, it's time to head to your hotel to get settled in. And then we're taking them out for dinner, a Pachamanca-style dinner, where the chefs will take the potatoes, because of course it's Peru, so there'll be lots of potatoes, and as well as all the meat and the other vegetables, pack them into cloth bags. They heat up the soil with charcoal, with burning coal, and then stuff all the food in there, and then cover it all over with soil, so that when they pull the food out an hour or so later, it has been cooked by Mother Earth. A really, fantastic meal, number one, but also a great way to learn more about traditional Andean cooking. The next day, you're driving up to Urubamba province again to go visit the Parc de la Papa. This is one of my favorite pictures that I took while I was there. You see the girl there on the side building one of those Pachamanca-style ovens so that she can then pack the food in for her family who are all working in the fields in the morning. So we arrived at the Parc de la Papa. So this is very similar to the Cacacoyo experience that you have at our Women's Weaving Co-op. It's a National Geographic kind of project where they're supporting 6 local communities and over 6,000 local people, helping them to preserve their culture and also preserve the over 700 species of potato that they grow locally. And they have direct links to the Svalbard seed bank as well. So it's a really great way to learn more about potato farming, the different types of potato that they do farm, and how important it is to Andean culture. But then also, of course, learning about the traditional weaving styles that they have there too. So, learning about how they harvest the wool, wash the wool, dye the wool, spin the wool, and then create these really beautiful garments and cloths out of that. So an excellent trip into a really remote part of Urubamba province. It's a little bit of a drive to get up there, up into the mountains, but it's a really beautiful destination. And obviously, what we want to be able to do is make sure that more communities in the Sacred Valley are benefiting from travel and tourism. So from there, you're heading to Pisac, another Incan site, to kind of learn more about the Incan people, their designs, and how they built structures, and how that they lived. It was here that I learned that The local guides and the people of Peru don't like to have these sites known as Incan ruins. They're not ruins. If you put some thatched roofs on these houses and you reseed those terraces, you can live there happily. These are Incan sites protected by UNESCO so that people aren't living there, but people could continue to live there if they so chose or were able to. And so a really interesting kind of trip and visit to a place and an ability to learn more from our really knowledgeable National Geographic guide. And then from there, we headed to Ollantaytambo to visit that Incan site as well. Parts of this site are still inhabited. This was taken from the other side of the valley. So you can see the town of Ollantaytambo, where there is a really fantastic marketplace as well. And then you kind of walk up that massive, those terraces to get to the religious sites at the top to learn more about the different temples that are there as well. And then from that side of the valley, you can look over and see the granaries and storage houses on the other side of the mountain as well. And if you have time, you can quickly run up there. It only takes about an hour to get to those granaries from hiking to sort of explore that region as well. So you'll overnight at your hotel before jumping on a train early the next morning to head to Aguas Calientes to visit Machu Picchu. There is the opportunity to do the one-day hike here. If people are looking to do a trek while they're in the region, you get off the train at kilometer 104 and do a 4 or 5 hour hike up to Machu Picchu. These are permitted. You do need to book this in advance. The rest of the group will be heading to Aguas Calientes, a really interesting town right at the base of Machu Picchu mountain. There's lots to do in Aguas Calientes as well. It's a massive market town. You can also walk down to a small waterfall that's in the region that's about, about a 2 hour hike. And there's an amazing butterfly sanctuary there as well. So lots to do in Aguas Calientes. There's also the nightlife to explore and the restaurants before getting up early the next morning to do your visit of Machu Picchu, the highlight of many people's trips to the region. Our National Geographic guide for this trip was amazing. I personally was spellbound by the discussion that he was having, talking about the ancestry of the camel. And I'll let you travel to Peru so that you can learn more about this yourself. But just the guide had been working for G Adventures for over 20 years. He was extremely knowledgeable, like all of our National Geographic guides on this trip. And it was a really excellent visit to Machu Picchu. And of course, you have time to explore by yourself afterwards if you want to hike up to the Sun Gate and see the site from there, or if you're looking to head over to the Inca Bridge as well and see the back door to Machu Picchu. So from there, you're heading back down to Aguas Calientes and getting the train back to Cusco to spend your first night in Cusco. And you have a free day that day, and at the end of that day, you get to visit the Cusco Planetarium. So this is another National Geographic exclusive. It was amazing, I have to say. This picture wasn't taken out of Cusco, but it was taken during my trip to the region, and just the lady who runs the Cusco Planetarium is fantastic. I thought that I'd learned a lot from our National Geographic guides, but she was able to round out that knowledge with a really great description of the Incas' relation to the night sky and a discussion of the different planets and constellations and the black llama in the sky. And so just a fantastic trip, a real highlight, and right at the end of your journey as well. We had the opportunity to go outside. It was a relatively clear night and look up at the night sky and see, a couple of different planets as well as a galaxy in the distance as well through the telescopes. So just a really fantastic way to round out an amazing trip to Peru in the Sacred Valley. The next morning, you're up and at them again, a relatively early flight to fly back to Lima for your final day, your departure day, and then it's time to fly back to what hopefully won't be too snowy a Canada. So if you have any questions, Peru is my favorite topic of conversation. Please do reach out if you have any questions. It's garmstrong@gadventures.com. My contact information is all over social media. I really want to thank you for taking the time for this slightly hurried rush through of what was an amazing National Geographic Journeys trip to Peru. If you have more questions about this itinerary or other itineraries in the region, like I mentioned, please do reach out. And thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me talk about this. Thank you.